Hey guys, my name is Jasmine, your Tuesday host here on the Spellbound Heathens, and this week we're talking about vampires. Alright guys, so I apologize for looking like a hot mess today. I know I look awful, but I am working on painting my house. So, as you know, I just recently moved, so I'm just going to bust this out and look horrible. I just recently posted a video about vampirism going into, like, great detail. So if you don't know a whole lot about vampires, I suggest you go over to my channel. I'll put a link in the description and watch my latest video called Vampires. I think it's Vampires or Vampirism, one of the two. But I'm going to basically try to bust it out as quickly as I possibly can and give you a little book recommendation. So, we're specifically talking about psychic vampirism. From what I understand, Ivy got to pick the topic this week. And what I wanted to let you guys know is there are actually several different kinds of psychic vampires. I'm not going to talk about sanguinarians today, which are vampires that actually do consume and drink blood. If you want to know about that, go check out my other video. But psychic vampirism is basically a condition where one or more of the chakras in someone's energy system is screwed up beyond repair, basically. There could be a hole in it, it could be broken, not spinning, something like that, and it causes there to be a disturbance in the aura, whether it will be a hole or a weak spot or their entire aura being very weak and small. And in order to do that, they must take the prana or chi or vital energy or whatever you want to call it from another individual in order to sustain themselves. Okay, there are three or four different kinds of psychic vampires, and by that I mean not drinking blood, non-blood drinkers. The first one is just a regular psychic vampire. There are two different ways that these psychic vampires feed. There are passive and active ways of feeding. There's also emotional vampires, which are psychic vampires who feed off of emotional response, whether that be adrenaline rush from, like, let's say, bungee jumping or lighting someone on fire or safely or something like that. It could be those people that just pick and pick and pick and pick at you until you want to strangle them. And then when they leave, you feel completely drained. That could be a psychic emotional vampire who does not understand what they're doing. Many of the times these vampires are not awakened, which means they are not aware of their condition. And if they're not aware of their condition, they're still going to feed subconsciously, but they do it in ways that are not as efficient, such as bullies that never grow out of being a bully. That could be because of a psychic vampire condition. The last way is a sexual vampire, which are people who can feed off of sexual and orgasmic energies. Like I said, a lot of people like this also do not understand their condition. Many of them may not be awakened. They may not understand exactly what they're doing. So they may be individuals who are promiscuous or are, you know, constantly craving one-night stands. They could even be sex addicts and not realize what they're doing and how to do it efficiently. Because you may be promiscuous and have 15 one-night stands in a row and still feel like you need to have sex with someone because you're not taking the energy in an efficient manner. Now, if that is your preferred way of taking in energy, and you learn how to do it in a way that is a lot more efficient, such as only taking the energy from someone's climax, because that's the strongest and most potent, well, then that may be a good idea once you have awakened and have realized your condition. What really bugs the shit out of me personally is when people go around, and especially witches and pagans, which is even worse in my book because we are so discriminated against, but they turn around and they say, oh, watch out for psychic vampires. They're just a bunch of blood-sucking leeches that are trying to steal your energy and they're trying to kill you and all of this shit that's not true, basically. And what I wanted to share was that vampires actually have a code of ethics. Once a vampire has awakened, they usually are very sensitive to other vampires and are able to find them very easily. It's almost like they have a big glowing beacon above their head. And a lot of these vampires have found each other and have basically created an underground society of vampires, almost like covens. And basically what happens is they get together, they have elders, they have rules, they have ethical codes, and the one that I want to share with you guys is the Black Veil. The Black Veil was written by several different elders from several different vampire communities, mostly the Sanguinarians, but there are also several other kinds that contributed to this, such as the Order of the Strigoi V. I think that's how you pronounce it. But the Black Veil is 13 different codes of conduct for the vampire community. There are several, such as discretion, controlling yourself, watching your behaviors, and things like that. But they also have basically codes where every donor, that's what they call the people they feed off of, and especially for sanguinarian feeders who are blood feeders, their donors are screened and are run through a very rigorous testing process before they are ever become donors. And one of their principles is to respect all life, respect the life that they feed on, and do not abuse those who provide it for you. Now, the only vampires you really do need to watch out for are those who have not awakened, such as the emotional vampires. And if you know that they're an emotional vampire and they don't, well, then maybe you should talk to them about it. If there's someone close to you. If it's just someone, you know, you've never met, they're aggravating you in a store or something, and you get that feeling, either ignore it, put up a shield, or leave. Because they don't really know or understand what they're doing. They just know it makes them feel better to bully people, basically. But I'd like to recommend a book to you guys, which is The Psychic Vampire Codex by Belanger. She is a psychic vampire. She is one of the leaders of the House Keferu, and she wrote this book called The Psychic Vampire Codex, a manual of magic and energy work. This goes into extensive detail about the different kinds of vampires, about history, about vampire subculture, such as Vampire the Masquerade, and the effect that it's had on the modern vampire community. She goes into how they feed, different energy manipulation techniques. So even if you just want to learn about energy manipulation, pick up this book. You should be able to get it for maybe $3 or $4 on Amazon. I think I got it for like $6 2 or 3 years ago, so it's probably gone down now. You might be able to get it for a couple bucks. Oh yes, okay, so there's a second part to this video that I totally forgot about until just now. And we are starting a series where we ask questions of each other, the hosts on the channel. Dean's question is this week. And his question was, what is the most memorable experience that we have ever had during meditation, basically? And I would have to say that my greatest meditation experience was... it was when I was first trying to communicate with specific gods and goddesses. Because usually I just go with the more Native American type beliefs that in Sky Father and Earth Mother, that there's a male and a female and they're universal. But I also understand why people want to connect with certain archetypes of the god and goddess. So I did a little meditation trying to find which one would call to me. And I was led to by my spirit guide, Kernunos, from the Celtic and Welsh pantheons. And it was a very long, very vivid, beautiful meditation. And after I was done with Kernunos, he took me through the forest and showed me all sorts of different things. And then after that, I was led by a gnome, which was a little weird to me, down into a cave underground. And when I got underground, there was like this huge wooden door. And when I went in, I met Caradwin. And those are my two patrons. They always have been ever since then. I haven't really been drawn to any other gods and goddesses at this point, but I do recognize Caradwin as a triple goddess, Arianrod, Blodeoweth, and Caradwin. But that was my best moment in meditation, and a little bit about vampires, and I guess that's it for today, so we'll see you next week. Blessed be.